Hey everyone, my name is Chris Chastain. I am with your Grand Prairie Parks Arts and Recreation Department, and I want to talk to you today about doing some nature photography with nothing more than what's probably already in your pocket, which is a smartphone. That's all you need. Now, nature photography is a very fun and relaxing activity. It can give you a real appreciation for the environment around you, and it's a great way to make some new memories, some things you can look back on. So today we're just going to give you a few simple tips about things to get your phone set up to get some great images, as well as some tips for while you are outdoors taking your pictures, how you can make them a little bit more exciting, a little bit more captivating, okay? Just something to help you make you stand out. So let's get started. Alright, so the very first thing we want to do is we're going to get our phones and we're going to make sure that our lens is nice and clean, okay? These things sit in our pockets, they sit in our purses, you reach in to grab them, and a lot of times your finger will just go all across that camera lens. You can leave fingerprints, there could be some dust, anything else that could make a blurry image or maybe make things seem not quite as how you saw them with your eye. So take your phone, if you have any kind of cloth, a little microfiber, you're just going to wipe it off just like that. Get it nice and clean. If you don't have anything with you, if you happen to be hiking, you can choose the bottom of a clean t-shirt. That'll work fine. Just trying to do as much as you can to make sure that we get a crisp image, alright? After that, we're going to go into our camera app and we're going to start looking at some things in the settings, okay? Now the first thing we're going to look at in our settings is the resolution of our images. Setting a high resolution is what's going to give you the best possible quality in your pictures. Lower resolution won't be quite as crisp, not quite as sharp, but high resolution pictures do take up more memory, so please be mindful of that. If you have a lot of memory to work with, set it to high resolution and just forget all about it. Get those great pictures. If you are pressed for memory, you can use the lower resolutions. It won't be the best quality product possible, but when viewing on a phone, this is usually going to work out just fine, okay? So just set it to the resolution that you think will work best for you, but the higher the resolution, the better quality picture you're going to get. The other thing we're going to set is HDR for those phones that have the capability. Most of them do these days. HDR stands for High Dynamic Range. What that means is that areas of shadows are going to be a little bit brighter. Areas of highlights, usually like in the sky, are going to be brought down a little bit to make a nice even image so that you don't have these really dark areas that you can't see or really bright areas that are hard to see. It kind of flattens out the image, so it can be a really useful tool. So go ahead and enable that in your phone settings. The next thing that we're going to look at in our settings is putting grid lines onto our screen as we take pictures. What grid lines are going to do are help you compose images that are more captivating. So when you are looking at a subject, something that you want to take a picture of, go ahead and try placing it onto one of these lines. It kind of looks like a tic-tac-toe board. And you can place it on a line or even place it where two lines cross. And what this does is it places your subject in such a place that the viewer can look at your subject and still has room to wander through the picture. And that's what makes images have that kind of feeling that you want to keep looking at it, that you keep finding new things, and makes it really exciting. An easy way to do this is when you're taking a picture of a landscape and you see the horizon in the background, try placing it on the upper third line if you want to focus more on what's on the ground in front of you, or place it on the lower third line if you want to focus more on the sky, if you're taking pictures from clouds or something. And you'll start to notice that when you do that, instead of just putting it straight through the middle of your photo, it gives you more room to explore. So go ahead and play with these grid lines. They're great for starting out, just to give you ideas of how to compose images and make them, really pop and make them exciting. Now everyone's phone is going to be a little bit different. Some people have iPhones, some people have Android phones. There's all kinds of options in between those. So if you're having a little bit of trouble finding something in your menus, a quick Google search can usually point you in the right direction. And the last thing we want to discuss when talking about tips for the phone are tapping on your subject to tell your phone exactly what it is you're wanting to take a picture of. Now when you tap on an object in your phone while viewing it through the camera, you're doing two things. One, you're telling it what to focus on. So to make sure that it's not blurry, your phone is going to know this is what you want a picture of, so it's going to be sharp and in focus. The other thing it's doing is exposing correctly. Now exposure is kind of the amount of light that your phone is allowing in. So when you pick a subject by tapping on it, you're telling your phone, this is what I want to be exposed correctly. This is what should be lit correctly in the image. Even if that means that the background is a little bit bright or a little bit dark, that's not what's important. What's important is that your subject is exposed correctly. So tapping on an object before you take a picture is going to make sure that it's sharp and in focus and that it's exposed properly so that you're sure you got a great picture of what you saw. Alright, so now that we got our phones all set up, we're going to head outside and discuss some basic photography tips to make sure that you're getting some really exciting images that you can be proud of. Alright, welcome outside. It's a beautiful day out here, and now let's talk about some photography tips that we should keep in mind while going through nature photography. The first thing is we're going to want to use natural light, which of course means sunlight. It's going to work out much better than your camouflage in most scenarios. When it comes to sunlight, the time of day is going to change the kind of light that you're working with, all right? At sunrise and at sunset, it's going to be a much more even lighting, a little bit warmer, kind of more orangey, fewer shadows and things. In fact, the hour after sunrise and the hour before sunset is what's referred to as golden hour, because that's when you get that kind of golden light. It can be very pleasing. Again, there's no harsh shadows to it. So this is a time that a lot of people like to shoot in. In the middle of the day, when the sun is more overhead, you're going to get a lot brighter light, and it's going to be a lot more harsh in terms of your lines and shadows, which isn't always a bad thing. Experiment with both. Sometimes for an artistic kind of feel, people will prefer that harsher light, but you know, just play around with it and see what you like. But always keep in mind that we want to use natural light instead of a flash. Another thing to keep in mind is you always want the sun behind your back when you're shooting. Now in this instance, the camera is here in front of me and the sun is placed in the sky behind me as well. And the reason you do that is that the sun is always shining onto your subject, okay? You don't want your subject to be sitting in shadow. You want it nice and lit up, so the easiest way to do that is just always make sure that the sun is behind you when shooting pictures, okay? Okay, now the next photography topic that I want to discuss is having variety in your images. This could be different kinds of light like we just discussed. It could be working with different kinds of colors, or it could be different distances in your images, which is what I want to go into a little bit more detail on. Now, when you're taking pictures of things, some things are going to look better close up, like a flower or other kinds of plants. Some things are going to look better further away, like a landscape, if you're getting some pictures of trees or maybe a water feature. As you're playing with different distances, I want you to keep a concept in mind, which is zooming with your feet. Now, what that means is if you want to get closer to an object, simply walk closer to it. A lot of people will pinch and zoom within their camera app to zoom in and get closer to something, but what that does or can do is result in a loss of quality. Things can get really pixely, a little bit chunky, and we don't want that. We want to get the best pictures possible. So as much as you can, if you want to get closer to an object, simply walk closer to it so that you don't have to zoom in digitally. Now, safety is always the #1 priority, so please obey any signage of the area that you're in. Remain on trails when instructed to do so. You don't want to step into an area that may be dangerous or put you at risk, okay? So if you need to zoom by pinching, absolutely do it. It's better than the alternative. But when it is possible, go ahead and zoom with your feet or walk closer to an object in order to get the best picture possible. Now in nature photography, we always want to respect our environment. And what do I mean by that? I mean, well, showing respect to the plants and to the animals and anything else that you might interact with in nature. In regards to plants, we don't want to pick flowers or destroy any plants to get a better picture of them because that might harm the environment, and you're also ruining that experience for the next person that might have come along and had a chance to enjoy that, you know, flower or plant. And you don't want to take that experience away from someone else when you got so much enjoyment from it. When it comes to animals, we don't want to feed them anything to try and pull them in closer for a better picture. You know, we don't want to give them candy or sweet treats because that's not part of their natural diet, and we want to respect them as much as we can. Another really enjoyable thing about nature photography is that you are capturing things in their natural setting. So as you change things up, it becomes less authentic and less realistic to how you found it. So always respect nature, respect the environment, and leave things exactly how you found them, or possibly even better. One question that a lot of people will ask when getting into nature photography is how close is too close when approaching wildlife? So we're going to discuss a topic known as the rule of thumb, and this is just a general practice that you can use while out in nature. And that is when you do see an animal and you're determining, am I too close or could I possibly get closer to this animal? We're going to use the rule of thumb. Now what that means is you're going to take one arm, I'm going to use my left arm, and you're going to stick it all the way straight out and create a thumb. Now with one eye closed, place your thumb over the animal that you see. If you can completely cover up that animal with your thumb, then you're at an okay distance. If you can still get closer and have it covered up, then that's okay. However, if you cannot cover up the animal with just your thumb, if you can still see portions of the animal around it, you're probably too close and maybe you want to back away a little bit, okay? So obviously for smaller animals, that distance is going to be smaller, and for bigger animals, it's going to be bigger. Now this is just a general safety practice. It's by no means a steadfast rule, but in most situations, this is what's going to keep you safe and the animals feeling comfortable within their environment as you visit. Now the last thing that we're going to discuss in this video as far as nature photography tips is practicing patience. Everything isn't going to happen all at once, and nature likes to move at its own pace. And remember that you are a guest in the environment, so you have to let things unfold naturally in order to get that realistic and authentic experience. Patience is one of the best aspects of nature photography. This is where the relaxation comes in, as you just take in nature, the fresh air, the sounds, listen for things, and just really appreciate the environment that you're in. Don't try to make things happen too quickly, or else they won't feel authentic in your images. So just be patient, let things come to you, and have a great time. On the screen now, I'm going to share some of the pictures I took with my phone just today while shooting this video. Take a look at them and see if you can spot some of the tips that we discussed, and hopefully this inspires you to get out and take your own pictures. I'm sure that in no time you'll be taking pictures as good as these, and hopefully even better. Alright, I want to thank each and every one of you for watching this video today. I hope that you learned something and now you feel ready to go out in nature, take some great pictures, and have a lot of fun doing it. If you do want to share those with us, we would love to see them. On social media, if you will use hashtag GrandFunGP, that's going to let us see all your images. We'll let you know what we think. All your friends are going to see them, and we would encourage you to do that. Please have fun, be safe, and we will see you out in nature.